Right, so today I want to start talking about my diet, and I've got a special guest here today. Hey Wolfer, how you going? Sit. Speak. Good boy. You want to play with little Chuck? Good boy. High five. Good boy. Speak. Good boy. Last time we spoke, I talked about the suit fitting and how I only had a few weeks, 6 weeks to be exact, to get myself into some kind of shape to fit into a suit, look beautiful for James and Monique's wedding on August 26th, and I was petrified. I got to work trying to lose weight as quick as I could. I've done a few diets in the past, and I've done probably 6 to 8 weeks where I diet like crazy, I lose a good amount of weight, you know, in that kind of 10 to 12 kilo range, and then just completely fall off the wagon. And the reason I did that was because I made it way too hard to maintain. I was way too strict on myself. So what did I do? I didn't look up any fad diet, I didn't go to Google, I didn't go to a doctor or anything like that. I sort of had a basic understanding of what I wanted to do. When I was a kid, I played lots of sport. So I probably got away with eating a lot more carbs than I needed to, but because I played sport, I was able to burn the energy off. Fast forward to now, and I'm not playing a lot of weekend sport, which means that I don't need a lot of energy. So my idea was, let's cut the carbs, which I'm sure you've all heard that one before. Let's cut out carbs completely. My thinking was I didn't need the energy to burn, so why consume it in the first place? So a lot of my favorite foods were gone from the get-go. Bread, potatoes, pasta, rice, a lot of the stuff I was eating on a daily basis, gone. Next step was to cut out all the sugary treats and all the bits and pieces like that. So chocolate, chips, lollies, all the snacks, ice cream, all that stuff, gone. Next up was what I drank. Now I completely cut out alcohol, I completely cut out sugary drinks, and you'd be amazed how much of a difference that can make. It can make such a difference. Now as I said, I've done this multiple times before and I'd had quite good success, but then I would just fall off the wagon because I just couldn't keep up with it and I couldn't handle how strict I was. I remember one example where I went out to play a game of cricket and I literally couldn't even bowl 2 or 3 overs because I just literally had no energy. I was so lethargic from not eating any carbohydrates. I just couldn't handle it. So I had to do something different this time. I had to make a bit of a change in order to have it last, which I eventually did. But to start off, what did the average day look like for me? If you watched my last video, you know one of the big ones for me is not only cutting out the crap, but also my portion control. Well, the first thing was very simple. Breakfast every morning was 2 hard-boiled eggs. Without fail, without question, 2 hard-boiled eggs every single morning. That was my breakfast. Nothing between breakfast and lunch. Lunch would be a little tin of tuna on its own, or maybe with a little bit of salad. Keep the carbs down, keep the portion size down. That was lunch. Get through to dinner, that was really simple as well. It was basically a meat and a couple of veggies on the side. So I think broccoli and carrots and all that good stuff. And then it was chicken, it was salmon, lamb, steak, just a basic meal of meat and veg. Really just make sure it was protein heavy, no carbohydrates, no rice, no pasta, no sides, no potatoes, nothing like that at all. Literally meat, veg, and that was my day. Now the problem came where I became so strict with what I ate that I wouldn't eat anything that I hadn't prepared myself. To the point where I wouldn't even season my steak at night. I would literally use water in the pan because I was paranoid about using oil, I was paranoid about using salt and pepper. And anyone who's tried a plain chicken breast with no seasoning whatsoever, it gets pretty boring pretty quick. The reason I stuck with it is because the weight started to fall off. It just fell away. Now a lot of it was probably water weight initially in the first few days, but it kept going and going. I managed to drop 15 kilos within the 6 weeks before the suit fitting. So by the time I got to the suit fitting, I'd hit about the 113 kilo mark, which was a big drop off from the 128 I started at. I was starting to notice it, I was feeling better about myself, but it was really difficult. I was struggling, I had cravings galore. It got to the point where I was chewing gum between my meals to try and almost keep my mouth busy. In terms of my exercise, I didn't really do anything. My thought process was, again, I wasn't consuming carbs, I had nothing I needed to burn, so I didn't need to exercise. Once the weight loss started to slow down a little bit, I did need to incorporate some exercise. But for now, it was those 3 basic meals, no snacks, no drinking, no nothing in between. Very, very simple and very, very difficult. The reason I managed to stick with it this time, I think, and not fall off the wagon is because I had a really key motivator behind me. I had James and Monique's wedding on the back of my own wedding 8 months after that, so that really drove me to stick with it. That's how I started. There's some of the mistakes and some of the successes I had. I certainly wouldn't recommend going as hardcore an approach as I did unless you had a ton of weight to lose in a really, really short time, because as I said, It's not sustainable. I did need to change it up. And I look forward to going into that into my next video on how I started to incorporate exercise into it as well. The other thing I did, which I really wouldn't recommend, was I was weighing myself twice a day. I became obsessed with that number on the scale, and something I actually attributed to my self-worth, which really isn't healthy. I wouldn't encourage anyone to be doing that twice a day on the scales. I just couldn't help myself. Every morning when I got up, it was the first thing I did, and it was the last thing I did before I went to bed, and I attributed each day to, you know, a good day or a bad day as to the number that came back to me. So that'll do it for today's video. I didn't want to touch on this stuff in too much detail because they were mistakes and things I certainly wouldn't recommend. Hopefully you'll learn from what I did and you won't make the same mistakes I did. But I certainly look forward to going into more detail in regards to some of the more successful things I did over my time, and hopefully you can learn from those rather than the mistakes that I made. Once again, thank you so much to everybody who's taking the time to watch these. The people who sent me messages and kind words and support, it's been absolutely phenomenal, and words don't express how much it really means to me. And it really motivates me to continue to tell my story. And I certainly understand that, look, I don't have it anywhere near as bad as some people do, but I think, you know, just getting the conversation out there is really important. So before I do start to ramble, that's going to do it for today. I'll see you guys in the next one.